Oh. Oh. No.
Now, I don't know if I have a reputation as a Bethesda apologist. I'm not quite sure I'm big enough for a reputation yet, but I tend to be more optimistic around Bethesda and Todd Howard. Well, more optimistic than most of the community, who are very doom and gloom. But the latest news about the layoffs is, well, all doom and gloom. So, last week, as in the week of the 6th of July, Xbox did a big old round of layoffs, something you're probably used to seeing by now, but these have also hit Bethesda, and by Bethesda, I mean the game studio, not just the publisher. This is pretty crazy news, considering that while Todd's gang haven't done much with them since the Xbox acquisition, the Elder Scrolls and Fallout IPs should be giant cash cows in waiting. Thanks to the show, Fallout is as popular as it's ever been. The problem is, Xbox seem to be sick of waiting. John the Q, I suppose, but getting rid of people working on a project doesn't seem like the wisest idea if you want the development of that project to speed up. Now, Xbox is calling this a restructuring, but every single time someone corporate calls something a restructuring, it's a mass firing to save money. So, let's have a look at this situation and theorise what it could mean for the Elder Scrolls 6 and beyond.
But we're also building toward the game after that. And it's the one you keep asking about.
As mentioned before, there is major restructuring going on at Xbox. If you're a fan of Xbox, which I find console loyalty at this point difficult to understand, you've probably been in a rollercoaster state of saying, it's over, we're back, and it's over all over again. Xbox has been known to buy studios, then shut them down, with many losing their jobs almost constantly, and the new-ish boss is seemingly not changing this streak. While people have been proclaiming that Xbox is back in the console wars with Sharma in charge, 3,200 people are set to lose their jobs at Xbox due to this restructuring. 3,200. 1,600 lost their jobs on Monday, the 6th of July, while the remaining 1,600 will lose them during the next 12 months, which probably fills those remaining at those companies with a lot of anxiety. The strategy is to apparently focus on the larger IPs that Xbox has, like Halo, Minecraft, Candy Crush, no I'm not kidding, Fallout, and of course the Elder Scrolls. If you're one of the smaller, once indie studios bought by Xbox, or perhaps you're a studio working on literally any other IP, and you're in this situation, I'm sorry. This sucks. Now, from a financial perspective, putting more investment in the likes of Minecraft makes sense, because it's the golden goose. I'm not 100% sure if Halo is that profitable, but I do know the esports scene is pretty underwhelming for what you'd expect. However, it is a massive IP. Either way, Xbox is retreating from the whole "we own every studio under the sun" strategy, which is going to be rough for the studios it does own that won't be making the cut. Expect even more to get shut down in the next 12 months, but you would then expect the likes of Bethesda to get bigger, not smaller, because it owns two of the IPs that Xbox want to invest in. But no, it's getting downsized too. Jill Braff, we'll go with Braff, president of Bethesda, sent out an email to her employees saying the layoffs reflect the realities of our industry and business, and our responsibility to ensure Bethesda is operating from a more stable foundation. To me, this implies that Bethesda's foundation wasn't viewed as all that stable before, so you might think that the downsizing could be for streamlining, which is probably how studio execs justify binning that many people. But both the people and amount of people getting laid off from Bethesda do raise an eyebrow from me. It shouldn't be forgotten that Bethesda is more than just a developer. It's a publisher too, but the publishing end has had some issues under Microsoft. The one I'm personally the most puzzled by is the loss of Tango Gameworks. No relation to the drink, I think. But this was a Japanese studio under Bethesda's publishing umbrella, and an award-winning one at that, known for Ghostwire Tokyo, Hi-Fi Rush, and the Evil Within series. This success didn't save them from Microsoft cuts, and Tango Gameworks was seemingly bound for the bin, only to be saved and picked up by Krafton, a Korean publisher. And good on Korea, there seems to be a lot of growth over there in their gaming industry. So what I'm saying in a roundabout way is that Bethesda's publishing arm is known to get assaulted, and I don't know if it was just me, but I could never foresee Bethesda, the game developer, getting the same treatment. The perception seemed to be that Xbox acted like Todd Howard's loaded sugar daddy, and that Todd himself was suffering from too many yes men both above and below. Then we heard news that 440 Bethesda Union members were laid off, including 96 at id Software, 40 remote workers at BGS Dallas, 22 at BGS Austin, and 213 at ZeniMax Online Studios in Maryland, and 166 at ZeniMax Media. Yikes. This means that out of the 1,600 who lost their jobs on the 6th of July, over a quarter were from ZeniMax. Now you could see this as a binning of new staff members, since I probably don't have to tell you that the entry-level jobs across the world are vanishing, and that these guys are usually the first to get the boot. But the long-term BGS staff are getting the sack too. A senior concept artist of 18 years, Ray Lederer, was there during the development of Skyrim and was responsible for a lot of iconic elements in the game. You can see it all in his art station, which we'll leave below, but here are some examples. A bunch of weapons including Daedric and Elven, the Amulet of Mara and several locations, including the Statue of Azura, the iconic Whiterun entrance, which has always felt like home to so many of us, and Riverwood, where we first arrive escaping Helgon. All this iconic work did not stop Ray from losing his job. And I can't really articulate how sad this makes me as someone who literally grew up with Skyrim. It's a terrible situation. And while people will rightfully call out Xbox for this with a bunch of negativity, I want to talk about the human element here. Whatever you think of Bethesda or Xbox Studios, many people's careers have been dealt major blows. There are talented developers, programmers, artists and so on, perhaps years and years into a place they felt comfortable in or excited to get started with their career, now thrown to the wayside en masse. It's a cruel way of doing things, and like many others, I look for any kind of answer from Xbox. Yet I find that these answers don't really make sense to someone who doesn't care for corporate speak. I have mockingly used the Don't Make Sense title in many of my videos about Elder Scrolls lore, and while this usually makes me laugh, in this instance it just makes me pretty mad. Brav stated that, to be successful in the future, we need to change course. We must strengthen our business, return to sustainable growth, and ensure we can continue investing in our franchises and our players. I know that doesn't make a day like today any easier. Now, in that statement, at no point does she say we need to make more games more efficiently, or we just need to make them better. I suppose that's what she's implying, talking about sustainable growth, but you're not growing, you're shrinking, and Bethesda is already one of the biggest names in the gaming industry. It's just really, really slow. They're also getting rid of people who made the games what they were, and I don't think that this helps Bethesda's paradoxical problem. You see, many have validly said that Bethesda hasn't kept up with the times with its game design, being outdated, while others have said that Bethesda needs to go back to the old days where they had that kind of magic with their games. While these arguments are paradoxical, because one says that Bethesda needs to go into the future, while another says they need to go into the past, both are true. And you could argue that the layoffs mean Bethesda is being pushed into the future by Xbox. It could be a forceful streamlining to make the production of the Elder Scrolls 6 more efficient, but the problem is that this is all being done mid-development. This wasn't something that was screened during the acquisition, and is being done after the majority of Bethesda is working on Elder Scrolls 6. not during that period just after Starfield. Bethesda staff members have come out, according to IGN, to talk about how this negatively affected morale, which, I mean, obviously it would. I have personally been a part of a major restructuring, as those corporate types call them, at a game journalism company, and it didn't exactly make me want to go back into game journalism. Now, the last thing you want for a studio under the amount of scrutiny Bethesda suffers almost daily is low morale, and this isn't exactly going to help the development of Elder Scrolls 6. More than that, a lot of people who are currently working on projects for the game are gone, probably halfway through said projects, which doesn't make it easier on those left to work on the game, trying to piece these projects together while finishing off what they were working on. Now granted, Bethesda did have a bit of a reputation for being bloated, and perhaps this could have been a needed cutting of the fat, but that's not how the actual staff members see it. Again, according to IGN, Bethesda Game Studio staff apparently mentioned the fear of a development crunch, which we know almost always bodes poorly for a game. Before it was a disaster of a launch, we heard of a development crunch for Cyberpunk 2077. And while the game's good now, at launch it was probably the biggest disappointment in gaming perhaps ever. And the more I see of this, the more I think that the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to go in that direction. But because of the Xbox overlords and how gun-ho they are, I don't think the Elder Scrolls 6 will be given the opportunity to have Cyberpunk's redemption arc. The thing with Bethesda is that if you're following this studio, I think it's hard to expect them to produce something amazing with the Elder Scrolls 6, even in a great situation. I'm personally expecting a good but not great game that is better than Starfield and maybe more Fallout 4 levels of quality, relatively speaking. But if you know or can feel that a studio is past its prime, like Bethesda seems to be, you, as Xbox, should be doing everything you can to help the development go as smoothly as possible. Binning a bunch of people all at once and telling the rest to work faster midway through development is not helping. Worse still is that Xbox's focus on its largest IPs also means we're losing out on other games. Obsidian is allegedly being asked to work on a new Fallout game, which is more than likely going to be another New Vegas type game. Maybe New Vegas 2, maybe something similar in a region in America. This comes at the sacrifice of Avowed 2. Now granted, I'm personally not that bothered about that specifically, because I consider Avowed a pretty mediocre game. But that does mean that the Pillars of Eternity universe Avowed is set in is probably done. This is a shame, because Larian and Baldur's Gate 3 made the CRPG genre kind of mainstream, and Obsidian, who are pretty good at making CRPGs, could and really should have been the studio to capitalise on that. Instead, it's making a new Fallout, and before you get excited about that, I'm going to tell you something you probably already know, but you're gonna hear it anyway. The majority of the people who made the games that you love from the studios you followed for a long time aren't there anymore. It's the case with BioWare, it's the case with Obsidian, and it's the case with Bethesda. And this is a major reason why these three studios specifically have lost a lot of their magic. And these Xbox layoffs means that those who are left are going too. There are already major question marks around whether the Bethesda and Obsidian we knew still have it in them to make the games we used to love, but with modern standards. A lot of the old heads of Bethesda, like Kurt Coleman and Michael Kirkbride, are gone now, and it seems even the generation after them who started with Skyrim, like Ray Lederer, are being shown the door. It almost feels like Todd Howard is the only one left, and it doesn't sound like he's staying around for too much longer either. It starts to sound like Bethesda, the studio, is effectively gone, and Xbox is just wandering around with its face and its IPs. Say what you want about Todd, but if The Elder Scrolls 6 is his last game, it's effectively going to be the last true Bethesda game. And even that's a stretch considering all the people who have been lost who made games like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3 and so on. It does seem like Xbox is intervening more to get something out of Todd's IPs, effectively giving him less control. But if he's eventually going anyway, openly speaking about whether he's got much more in the tank, it feels too little too late.
And then as we look to like an Elder Scrolls 6, that is one where like, I probably shouldn't say this, but if I do the math, I am not getting any younger. How long do people play an Elder Scrolls for? That may be the last one I do.
When Xbox bought Bethesda, I thought that they were going to turn them into a studio that does 2 games simultaneously. Bethesda has been a one-at-a-time studio, but a studio at that size probably should be working on 2 titles simultaneously, perhaps having 2 different teams. Sort of like what Arc System Works does with Team Blue and Team Red. Xbox could have split them into a Team Elder Scrolls and Team Fallout, but it seems that Bethesda will remain a 1 game at a time studio, and thus a lot of work for their IPs will be outsourced. We already had Virtuos do Oblivion Remastered, and Obsidian will be working on a new Fallout, but the problem is, Obsidian is no better. You cannot tell me that Writing Room is the same anymore. The quality there has fallen off dramatically, and there's definitely a fall off in ambition too. They're a studio making mid-sized games with mid-level ambition. And now they suddenly have to go a lot bigger for a new Fallout. Now that Avowed 2 has been cancelled, does that mean the Outer Wilds is going to be put on hold too? It's all just a bit of a mess. And ultimately, losing more talent from both studios without replacing them from all these layoffs isn't going to help. There are already concerns that these studios don't have the right talent, or rather the right talent in the right places, and with the gaming industry seemingly throwing away talent everywhere you look all the time, it's just adding to the doom and gloom and concerns that Bethesda can't make ES6 live up to the hype. The entire situation has just really bummed me out, and it's clear that the people in Bethesda feel this most of all. A BGS developer told IGN there is a fear that we are going to be replaced by cheaper contracted labour, or we will hire folks to replace them that will need to be onboarded. Our tools are proprietary, other devs aren't going to know how they work, resulting in more delays, and will need to crunch to make up the time. Crunch will lower the quality of the game, and delays will make them take longer. Both things Xbox shouldn't want. They should want The Elder Scrolls 6 to be as good as possible, and release in a timely manner. But if the people actively working on the game don't think it's going to happen, especially with these layoffs, what chance has it really got? All the uncertainty in the studio also makes me think that Xbox haven't really been clear about their plan with their employees. Again, that's a very corporate thing to do. It also seems like ESO is going to get hit hard too, with ZeniMax Online Studio suffering over 200 layoffs. While I don't play ESO, I have heard it was on the up recently, so that's pretty shite too, isn't it? Long story short, the whole situation just sucks, and I think it has taken most of the faith I have in The Elder Scrolls 6. Although I still have videos I want to make about it, so I'm still going to work on those. Still, I don't want to leave you guys with pure negatives. There is still the potential of something great coming out of The Elder Scrolls and the wider fantasy RPG scene. For the fantasy RPG scene, there's The Witcher 4 and Fable, which I'm sort of excited for. I feel that The Witcher 3 didn't need a sequel, and Fable looks good, but it's from a studio with zero track record of RPGs, so I don't really know what to expect. The real gem worth looking out for is the next Divinity. My god, I'm excited for that one. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 was awesome, yada yada yada, but Divinity Original Sin 2 is one of my favourite games ever. And I've been doing a playthrough with a friend recently, constantly thinking about how great this game would be if it had Baldur's Gate 3's extra graphical push. Now that's going to be amazing. And the studio behind Kingdom Come Deliverance and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is working on a Lord of the Rings game, which I didn't expect in a million years, and that sounds like it's going to be pretty cool too. As for the Elder Scrolls, Skyrim's modding scene is always incredible. Look out for Beyond Skyrim, whenever that comes out, and the one I'm looking forward to most is the full release of Glen Morrell, from the incredible Viken, or however you're meant to say that name, the creator behind Dakota, Vigilant, and Unslad, all legendary quest mods. Hey, at least Xbox can't fire people from the Bethesda games community, right? Right? Thanks for watching my pure misery. I do try to offer some hope in my videos about Bethesda purely on the basis that life belongs in a burning dump and people don't need help feeling more dismal. The world does that enough as is, but there really isn't much hope here. Too many talented people looking to get into the gaming industry have had their careers put on hold because of this mess after landing what could have been a dream gig. As I lightly mentioned before, I can relate as a former game journalist, or rather games content writer, who got binned off in favour of AI. I really hope that this isn't what Xbox are planning to do, replacing all these guys with cheap labour and AI, because that's only going to make The Elder Scrolls 6 even more mediocre, and there were already concerns that the game is going to be mediocre. Obsidian's mediocrity streak doesn't exactly fill me with confidence for the next Fallout either. Oh, and also, you can get your game journalist can't play games jokes out now about me. Have fun with that one. I might just crawl in a bin of my own accord. I'm also going to apologise if I've missed anything worth covering. This is obviously different from covering lore, but if you did enjoy it, do the whole YouTube ritual thing of liking, commenting and subscribing. I know I'm a little late to this, but I had a shared Gorath video in the works when this news broke, which you can check out here, and I really don't know how people make videos on this so quickly. But don't you worry though, for the next video we won't be as dismal and normal service of lore is resumed. So hopefully I'll see you then.